centralized global state in which we'll have a world government dictating through a world army and a world central bank, with a world currency, electronic, not physical money, and a microchip population where babies are microchipped at birth and connected to a global computer. When I started talking about the microchipping agenda a decade or more ago, people laughed at me. Well, they're not laughing now because it's happening. Yeah. Now, the thing is that if you want that world structure of a world central government dictating to every country in the world and having the world army to impose that will against people that don't wish to accept it, then you cannot have superpowers. Because if you have a superpower that has the economic and military might to say to the world government, we're not doing this, okay? We're just not doing it, then you do not have a world dictatorship. And what they're doing, and, you know, they might be sick, and they might be desperately imbalanced people, but they are not intellectually stupid. By that, obviously, people like Bush are, but I'm talking about the people that are in the shadows that you never see. They're not stupid people intellectually, and this is a genius, the way they've worked this out.
Absolutely.
They have to destroy America and also China and any superpower that could say no to the world government. And what they're doing is they're using America to destroy America.
Yeah.
And not only that, they're getting America to take the global rap, if you like, as they say in America, to be the global villain for doing it. But actually, the American nation is being used as a vehicle. So they're being used to advance the agenda, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, but at the same time, while they're advancing it, they're also heading towards being destroyed militarily and economically on the journey of doing it, so that they will be subordinate to the world government. And where it's all leading, Henrik, and I've been talking about this, and I was just about the only one at one time, 15 years ago or so, it's leading to a conflict with China. That's what they want. They want to bring these superpowers into conflict so that they will be able to bring them both to heel under a world government that says we must have a world government structure to stop this ever happening again. Now, this is what happened after the First World War. It's a technique that I've coined problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem, you hide who's really responsible, i.e. you blame someone else for it. You tell the public through an unquestioning media the official story of the problem that you want the people to believe, and then when the people react by saying something must be done, this can't go on, what are you going to do about it, you then offer the solution to the problems you have covertly created. Now, I've just described 9/11. You have the problem, it's Islamic terrorists, and the solution is the war on terror and all this other stuff. It's all a classic technique. Now, what they did with the First World War was that they brought these nations into conflict by manipulating both sides. They then offered the League of Nations, because what they desperately have been seeking is centralization of power, because the more diversity of power and decision-making you have, the less control a few are going to have over it. There's just too many points of decision-making for you to control. You need to centralize it incessantly. And the more it's centralized, the more power you have over more and more people. And not only that, the more you centralize power, the more power you have to centralize power even quicker, which is why the speed of centralization of power has got quicker and quicker and quicker through the 20th century and into now. So the League of Nations was a focus to create a world body through which they could use as a Trojan horse to bring about their world government. It didn't quite work as they wanted to, and so they had a Second World War. And after the Second World War, we had the United Nations, we had the Bretton Woods Agreement with the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and this explosion of world centrally controlled bodies. And this has gone on, and they want a third war now to finally impose the fully fledged world government government to replace the United Nations. And it's interesting that there's a guy in America in the 1800s called Albert Pike, who was a Freemasonic god, if you like, and to them. And he was the man, one of the key men behind the creation of the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah. And he wrote a letter to one of his secret society buddies,
Giuseppe Mazzini,
in which he talked about 3 world wars, and we've had 2, which fitted what he said they would be about, and we're now, I think, heading towards a 3rd one, unless we wake up, because that's the one they want to finally impose their global structure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was, wasn't it Giuseppe Mazzini? He wrote
That's right.
Yeah,
he wrote it to him,
and, you know, those who, I guess we could say, those who think that they are smart enough, who say that they have seen through the American, plan to take all the oil, and that it's simply about the oil. That's why they invade Iran and Iraq. Do you have any take on that? Do you think that's the only reason?
Certainly not. One of the things that is very clear to me after all these years of research is that nothing ever happens for one reason. Yes, of course, on one level, it gives them more power if they control Iraqi oil. But there are many other reasons for this. This is about not only controlling Iraqi oil, it's about controlling the whole global oil supply, because if you control that, then you have dictatorial control over the whole system, which is actually based on oil and consumption. In the same way that they control the global banking system, because even more than oil, the system is controlled by the manipulation of what we bravely call money, which is nothing more than figures on a screen. And so, yes, on that level, it gives them more power, but there are many other levels to it. It's part of a process of leading towards this conflict with China. And interestingly, in recent months, there's been more and more stories in the American media which have been demonizing the China threat. And it's also historical in terms of Iraq. When you follow the families back under different names that are manipulating the world today, you go back to the European aristocracy and royal families. You follow them back to Rome and the Roman Empire and the creation of the Roman Church, which became global Christianity in its various forms. Yeah. And if you go back from Rome and you follow them further, you end up in Babylon and Sumer. And where were Babylon and Sumer? In the land that we now call Iraq. So this is operating on many levels. This land of Iraq it's a sacred piece of land to this Illuminati, because it's where historically they came out of. And this is the reason that you have so much Babylonian symbolism all around us in the world today. Yeah. The Babylonian Trinity, religious Trinity, was Nimrod, who they symbolize as a fish and a lighted torch. Yeah. Tammuz, the virgin-born son of Nimrod, who was supposed to have been the reincarnation of Nimrod. That's why they said Nimrod and Tammuz were one, father and son were one. That's why Christianity gets it from. Yeah. And the third point of the Babylonian Trinity was a goddess called Queen Semiramis, also known as Ishtar or Istar, and operated under many other names. And when you look at the way the ancients depicted Queen Semiramis, you are looking at a mirror image of the Statue of Liberty, yeah, which also has a replica on an island in the River Seine, just down the river from where Princess Diana died, in the Pont d'Alma Tunnel. Yeah. And Diana was an expression of this ancient goddess and was known as a moon goddess. In Babylon, they said that Semiramis came from the moon in an egg, and she was also known as Istar, like I say, spelled Ishtar, and that's where we get the old Easter egg thing from. Yeah, exactly. And the old Easter ceremony comes from Babylon. I mean, the whole of the Christian ritual comes from Babylon, because what happened was the Illuminati relocated from Babylon to Rome, and they changed the religious names, but they kept the same religious system.
Yeah.
So we had Father, Son, and Holy Ghost replacing Father, Son, and Goddess Queen Semiramis, and the Christian religion, particularly the Roman Catholic expression of it, turned Mother Mary into their version of the Babylonian goddess Queen Semiramis. This is why what they call, in so many different instances, Mother Mary, like the Queen of Heaven and the Virgin Mother, that's exactly what they called Queen Semiramis in Babylon.
Yeah.
And you have the other side of it, which, as I mentioned earlier, that they used to symbolize Nimrod, the father god in Babylon, as a torch or a lighted torch or a flame.
Yeah.
And so in New York Harbor, as on the island in the River Seine, you have Queen Semiramis, the goddess of Babylon, holding the flame that symbolizes the Babylonian god Nimrod.
Yeah.
So all around us you have this Babylonian symbolism. And incidentally, the Pont d'Alma tunnel where Diana died translates as Bridge of the Moon Goddess. And the great goddess Diana, who's one of the great goddesses worshipped in the ancient world, was worshipped, like I said earlier, as a moon goddess.
That's right.
And on top of the Pont d'Alma tunnel, almost on top, if not on top of where the car actually crashed, you have a massive and exact replica of the flame and torch held by the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
When you go to the Pont d'Alma tunnel, it's a nondescript area. It's just a series of crossroads. It's not a place where you would normally put such a symbol, but you'd put it in a much more prominent area.
Yeah.
But the reason it's there is, A, you've got the Pont d'Alma tunnel, the bridge or passage of the moon goddess, and secondly, that site where the tunnel is now is an ancient site of sacrificial worship to the goddess Diana. Centuries and centuries ago, when we had the Merovingian bloodline in power in that area. And one of the ways you can read this Illuminati is their obsession with symbolism and their obsession with their own history, which they use again and again when they are putting together their events like 9/11, etc., and the London bombings. And you can see these recurring themes if you understand where they're coming from in terms of symbolism.
Absolutely. It's occult rituals basically performed
That's exactly what it is.
right in front of our eyes. And I've been in my previous interviews that I've done with other people here, I've come back to this question quite a lot, and I want to have your take on it. You know, why do they perform this in front of our eyes? Why isn't this hidden in the backdrop, so to speak? Why is it so obvious?
Well, again, there are a number of reasons for the same question. One is it's their secret language, and it's their signature, if you like, and initiates of that knowledge around the world will be able to read the signature. It's a way of communication. Secondly, they don't really care if a few people find out, because it ain't going to make much difference unless vast numbers